Now, what we are going to do is we're going to do character recognition. So, but to do this, I'm not sure if I can do it tonight because I have not prepared the files and things like that. But I'm going to try it. If you follow me, let's try this. This is an experiment tonight. If it fails, okay, be that So let's try quote unquote AI coding. So that's what we are going to do. Is we're going to code this AI. Now, what we are going to do, this is what we call handwritten recognition. Handwritten recognition. Okay. So this is what we are going to do. I'm going to do this actually later on, but somebody mentioned to me yesterday that our time is limited, our class is limited, so I'm going to push it tonight and see if it works. Okay. If it doesn't work, then it doesn't work. Okay, now let's start this by open Google Colab. I'm going to show you, but you can follow me. And as usual, I'm going to copy and paste my code, and also I'm going to share the code with you so you can follow and go through. Okay. So let's start with. Okay, wait. I'm going to start with my Google Colabs. You can start with Google Colabs also. Okay, let's start with Colab. Google. Let me just use my Colab Google. Hang on a second. Oh, sorry. Open Colab. Okay, Colab Research Google.com. Let me just share my screen. Okay. No notebook. We'll see. Okay. Wait, see. Wait. You can follow this. Okay, now let me open my kepean. My catatan. See if I can retrace of what we did a long time ago. Now the problem with courses like this is usually after 6 months or 3 months, all the codes are kind of different. Okay, so but that's okay. We'll figure it out. Okay, let me open my Colab. No, my notebooks. Wait, we got notebook. Let me notebooks. Collab notebooks. Okay, let's open that one. Handwritten. Can I have like one written? Okay, digit recognition. Let's try this one. Okay, now to do this, we're going to use what we call a TensorFlow. Okay, so let's try this. Remember last week we used NumPy. So tonight we're going to use a different one. Okay. Okay. Let's start here. Import TensorFlow STF. Okay, let's do this. Can I do this? Okay. And then ten, import TensorFlow dot keras as keras. Okay. And then I do print TensorFlow underscore version. Let me just copy this one first. Version. Okay. Sorry. Version. Okay. Let me just run it. Oh, okay. It works. Okay. Let me share my screen to you. My code. Let's see. I'm one with link. Can view. Okay. Copy link done. Sharing it with you. This is the link of my screen. So you can see my screen. And then I'm going to copy also the code. Okay. So you can follow me. Okay. Wait. Okay. So that one, the first one is my exact screen, so you can see it, and then the other one is kind of the code that I said. So TensorFlow is a library that can be used to program AI. In the old days, we have to program with so many things, C, C++, C sharp, or whatever. It's so difficult. But these days, you can do this with Python. So we're going to use TensorFlow. Okay. This is just to test that Google Colab has TensorFlow. If we are using this in our server or in our computer, we have to do this in a hard way. We have to install this, install that. So not worth it. Okay, now to the first thing is we want to have a data set. The data set it's called MNIST. Okay, so let me just open another one. This is called MNIST or MNIST. MNIST. Okay, okay, load data and then print X train shape. Okay, so what we are doing is we are opening a dataset called MNIST. Okay, so right now this is actually downloading the dataset. If we are doing it in our computer, then this is actually is going to download this into our computer. So what is the MNIST dataset? Okay, let me just go and type in MNIST. Okay, so MNIST is a modified National Institute of Standards and Technologies database of handwritten digits. So it has some kind of database, something like this. Okay, let me just show more. Okay, so it has thousands of images like this. Okay, so it has 0, 8, whatever. It's handwritten. All these numbers. In AI, we need to have these data sets to be used. So right now we're going to use this. Okay, this data set. Now, how do we use this data set? In Google Colab, we can do it by calling this MNIST equal Keras datasets MNIST. So this will actually download that dataset into your computer, or in this particular case to your Google Colab. Okay, so it will download that dataset. Okay, is this okay? Is it too fast? So I'm just going to. So you can follow me, right? Give me a thumbs up if it's okay, or thumbs down if it if it's confusing.
Pak Budi, can
Yeah.
you add comment for each codes of line that you run?
Oh, okay. In the screen, for example. Okay. So this one is basically I'm going to say downloading the data set. Okay, data set is handwritten numbers. Okay. So this is actually downloading. Okay. Now while we're downloading this, these two actually downloading. Okay. Now this one is to what do you call it? To print the data. The data. We just want to find out the data. Oh, it says the data. There are 60,000 images, 28 by 28. So it has 60,000 images, 28 by 28. But it doesn't mean a thing, right? Can I see it? Can I see one of the data? Okay. Let's see one of the data. Okay. Let's see again. We are using Matplotlib. Import matplotlib pyplot as usual, right? Pyplot as plt. Okay. And then I want to show maybe one of them. Okay. PLT. So PLT maybe PLT I am show. I want to see the training set number maybe 73 for example. Okay. And then I show it PLT show. Okay. So if I do this, it will it will get the data set number 73, which is like this. What number is this?
I believe it's number 6.
6, right? So This is number six. We can do the same thing. Yeah, I can, maybe let's try two, three, five, for example. So this one is number three. Okay. So it has lots of data, just like in this. Wait, ini menghalangi. Okay, so see, you see, there are examples of 396 or whatever, 60. Basically, there are 60,000 images like this. So we are downloading that one. Okay, here. Let me just in this one, hand written recognition. Okay, okay. But see, in this image contains all the numbers, but we call label them. So in this image, we have to label them. The X contains the image, the Y contains the label. Okay, this one, it shows the number, right? But I want to know what the label says. Okay, let's just print Y train. This is the label. Okay, 235. Okay, what is the label? So if I run it again, it says, okay, it's 3. And then the label, it says 3. So in the data, the 60,000, there are 60,000 images like this. We load them, right? We load them into X training set. And then the Y contains the label. Like, for example, this is number 3. Okay, let's say maybe 707. Okay, let's see what the image is like and then what the label says. So it says this is number 9, I guess. And then the label says none. Okay. So we had to label all those images. So if there are 60,000 images, we have to label each one of them. This is number 1, number 3. So that's the difficult part of AI. We have to have data sets and then we have to label them. Okay. For us, this is easy because somebody already done it. So this is the MNIST data set. It's already labeled. Somebody already annotated those 60,000 characters. Okay. So now you have this set of images and then their labels. How do we train our neural network or our AI to understand this? Okay. How do I do that? Okay. Now, uh, okay. The data set itself, it's basically, this is a collection of zeros and one. It has 20 pixels to the right and then 20 pixels to the bottom. So it has 28 by 28. Zero is black, one is white. Or sometimes if we print it like this, it's zero-ish. It's not a zero. Zero maybe five. Five is considered close to zero, so it's kind of dark, right? And then maybe the white, it's not that white. And then there's kind of grayish. Maybe 128 is grayish. Okay, so that's that. Okay, so this is an example of that. Okay, now, uh, I want to normalize this. Well, what we want to normalize is this. Is Because the number sometimes is, I don't know what they call it. Uh, well, that I can't explain properly. We'll normalize the data so it's easier to train. Okay, let's just normalize the data first. This is what we do usually. Okay, let's just create another. Where is my icon? Okay, let's create this, right? So we have a set of data, and then we want to create this normalize, right? And let's just plot it again. PLT image show, am am show. What was that again? X train 707. Okay, X train 707. Okay, let's do this. Okay. Oh, sorry. Let's change the color map. Let's say show that one, but I want this color map uh, binary to make it 0 and 1. Let's see. This is just to make it easier for us to look. So this one is easier for us if you look it from a distance. This is sorry, number 9, right? Okay, now. Okay, this is just basically we want to make sure okay the data set is there. Now, let's create this. Okay, let me just go back to this slide again. Remember our handwritten. Okay. Wait, where is my handwritten slide? Okay. Okay, let me go back to the slide again. So this is what we want to do, right? We want to have an AI or the assist the architecture of handwritten recognition. So in this example, we want to have several layers. One, two, three, four, five, six. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 layers, and they have different function. All these layers. Okay. Uh, how do we know what layer does what? Apparently, what you have to do, you have to go through and read papers. I'm going to skip that part. So basically, what we are going to do is we are going to borrow, or in bahasa Indonesia nyontek somebody else's architecture. Okay. So we look at the paper. Oh, that's how they do it. We create these layers, layers, layers. Now, how do we create the layers? How do we program it to create the first layer, second layer, third layer, and so on? Okay. Now, how to program that one is using Keras. Wait, let me show you the code. Okay, let's show you the code again. Where is my code? Okay, so let's create a code that does all the layering. Okay. Okay. So let me just copy of models that I have created. Okay. Let me just copy. This is the model that I hope it works. Okay. So basically I have 1, 2, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, these are the layers. The first one, it says, hey, I have a model. Create a model from TF Keras model sequential. So basically, I'm saying my architecture is similar to what we saw earlier in the slides. It's going to be sequential, meaning I have the first layer, second layer, third layer, and so on. Okay. And then the first layer, we're going to take input from the image. Okay. Because it's two-dimensional, we want to flatten and into creating into a uh, one layer of neurons. And then we have the second layer, third layer, and basically we have so many layers here, which basically does nothing. Actually, it has some sort of function. Okay, let me make it simpler. Let's create 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's just create 5 layers. Okay, in the middle. Let's just delete this 4. Let me just make it 5. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. So we have 5 layers in the middle. So this is the input layer, and then 5 layers in the middle. And then the last layer, because we have 10 classes, we have 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay. So we have 10 classes. This is 10 because we have different. If we want to separate cats and dogs, for example, we have only 2 classes, right? So we can just put this one 2 classes. But for now, because we are trying to recognize 10 different digits, we have 10 different digits, and then the activation is basically remember. I'll have to go back and forth. Okay, that's okay. I'll go back and forth. Uh, there are many choices. Wait. Remember. Okay. Okay. Remember this slide a long time ago? So we have all the inputs, and then the activation function is on the right side. This is the activation function. There is what we call ReLU, sigmoid, and whatnot. It's basically different kind of architecture to make the function behave differently. Okay. Now, how do I know which one to choose? Again, basically, I'm borrowing from somebody else's uh, somebody else's design. Right? Okay, let me just share back to my Google Chrome. Okay, So I have again this. I have input, and then I have one, two, three, four, five layers kind of. Okay, and then at the end, I want to say it one whether it can recognize one, two, three, four, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, up to 9. Okay, now this is what we call an architecture, the architecture. So this is you have to learn. This is not for us to understand this. That's why we hire an AI engineers. Basically, they're creating the architecture, and sometimes this is 5 layers. If you want to have a very good, say, face detection and recognition, just like what we have in our mobile phone, that's probably 25 or more layers, usually in the middle. Okay. But since we are doing this for just for exercise, I'm just going to use 5 layers. The difference is in accuracy later on. We'll see. Okay, so this is that. If I run it, okay, so it will do something. Okay, wait, run it again. Okay, it says okay. So there's no error in it. Now, what we want to do, we have the model, and then we want to train it. How do we train it? Now, this is what we want to do. This is again, now, this is a bit complicated. And what we are going to do is we are going to copy somebody else's code that did this. Somebody did this a while ago. So it says, okay, I have this architecture and I want to compile this architecture. And then there is an optimizer of this model. There are many example of the optimizer. One of them is Adam. And then how do we know when it is kind of done? What do you measure? So what we measure is usually loss function. And there are many loss function. This is what we call parameters. So this is parameters. So remember when they said, say DeepSeek has 1.5 billion parameters, it means you can have like 1.5 parameters in the middle that you can tweak. We don't need to do that, right? So these are just parameters that is kind of architectural wise. Okay. And then the metrics we want to find the accuracy. So later on it will tell us the accuracy. Okay, let's compile this. Okay. Now after that, I want to train it, the actual training. So I can say, okay, now let's train this using X and Y. Okay. How many, what we call epoch. Epoch is how many times we want to train it. Let's do it 10 times. Let's run it. Boom. So this is what we're going to do. This is what they're trying to do. So this is the first epoch. It's trying to train it using examples from the images, and then you can see on the right side the accuracy and the loss function. The accuracy from the first training, the first epoch, the first attempt, it says 85% or 0.85. This is the accuracy. It's already very good. 85%. It can recognize 85%. Meaning, if you have 100 letters, then probably it can recognize 85 correctly. And then if you can see, if you train it more and more again, it is usually the accuracy getting better and getting better. See, it says 97%. Okay, so it is doing that epoch 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now, if we have more layers, then the epoch usually takes a longer time. And if you are already happy with the accuracy, you can stop it. And sometimes when you run this, it's going to take a day, 2 days, 3 days, even a week. Why? Because it's the calculation is so complicated. But the nicest thing about TensorFlow and Keras, it actually they hide the complexity behind us. So what we did is we define the architecture, we define how we're going to kind of train it, and then we train it. So this basically that yeah, when people said training, this is what they do. Unfortunately, sometimes it takes forever using computers. That's why you have to buy GPU. That's why you have to buy NVIDIA. So if you run it this, just like what DeepSeek is doing, it's going to take 2 years, 3 years running this. 2 years. If you are running it on your computer, just like this. If you have a GPU, then it can run, like an hour or so. But if you don't have GPUs, then it's going to take forever. See, in this simple example, It's already taking so much time, right? This is just a simple explanation in simple exercise. Okay, we've done this, and it is actually pretty good. 0.95. So it's 99%. The accuracy of our model, this is our model, is 99%. So once we're done with this, okay, we can actually say we have a model. This is a model that we can use. The model, what we mean by model is this, the architecture and the weights among these components. So if I go back to this the slides again, okay. So what we have here is something like this, okay. Once we train it so many times, we have the architecture, and then the lines between this is kind of the weights, right, between these neurons. Uh, Once we run, the weight is predetermined. So we have a package this, and we can sell it. Okay, this is my model. So that's why we have a model from ChatGPT, for example. What they're doing, trying to do is they create this, and they have a model. Once you have a model, you can ask it to do something else. So now we already have a model. Okay. How do we test it? Okay, now we have a model that is already learned. Now, how do we test it? Let's test it. Remember, sorry, we have a model, and we have 60,000 samples, right? Let's try. I'm just going to copy this. Okay, this is from my old code. So what we are going to do, we're going to take samples from the we pick one, two, three, four. Well, let's pick four samples from our 60,000 samples. Samples number five, number 38, number 39, 3,939, samples number 27,000 or whatever, right? So we have these four samples. Can our model guess what the images, like these images? Okay. So what we do, we use the sample number five and so on, right? Now this one, we have this empty kind of list, right? And then the width and the image, because we know the width of the image is 25 by 25, like the samples of the images, right? Now let's get this from our the data set. Okay, let's get five, sample number five, and so on. Okay, so what we are doing, we take the sample, right? We take the sample. Okay, for sample in you sample. Okay, for so basically from from this list, we'll take number five, for example, take and then plot it. Okay, and then put it in a list. Okay, so we take it. Now, if we run it, then it will take four images. Okay. So these are the images that it's trying to read. This image, this image, this image, and that image. What are those? We know this is number two, number seven, number six, and number three, right? Oh, let us this to predict it. Okay. Okay. Now we already have those four images in the list of samples. Now let's try to predict them. Okay. This is the code. We are using NumPy again. Okay. Uh, so import NumPy as an NP, and then we have array of the samples, and then okay, let's just run this. Okay. So we have four samples, and the samples, there are four samples, and then the samples are images 28 by 28. Okay. Now let's predict those samples. Okay, let's just predict those sample. How do we do that? So this is what we do. Okay, so we can go predict predictions. Prediction is equal model dot predict. Okay, the samples to predict. Okay, okay, and then let's print out prediction. Print predictions. Okay, run it. Okay. So for those four numbers, it will say, okay, it says probability for zero, it's this. Remember, the numbers are this, right? Which is, remember, 2, 7, 6, 3. Okay. So if you look into the output, this is number 2, sorry, 0. This is number 1. This is number 2. This is number 3. This is number 4. So basically for all the 10 possible, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 9, 10, it will says, okay, the possibility of 0 is this, right? The possibility of 1 is this. The possibility of 2 is this. So this is the highest among the 10. So this is the first image is number 2. The second image is, let's see, which one is the bigger? Okay. This one minus 15, minus 15, minus 8, minus 10, minus, okay, this is the closest one. Okay. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So the 7. And then the third image is, let's see, from this list, which one? Okay, this one. Okay. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 6. Okay. So 2, 7, 6. And then the last one is, which one is smaller? This one, I guess. This is one. 0, 1, 2, 3. Okay. So it says, okay, 2, 7, 6, 3. But the way it shows, it's not that good, that we because we have to go we have to go through to this. Now there are easiest way. Let me just quote again. Classes. Let's see. NP arg max. Let's find the maximum of this number. Prediction axis one. Meaning just one axis. Okay. Okay. Let's just print classes. Sorry. Smaller. Let's run this. And it says 276. So from these numbers, list of numbers, which one is the highest? Number 2. This one is number 7. Okay, this one. And then this one is number 6, this one. And then the last one is number 3. Well, so our images, 0. Sorry, the first one is 2763. So it says 2763. So we have a model that can distinguish your character recognition. So we can use this as an example. Remember our election issues with our election a while ago. So this was part of the problem. They're using this to recognize the character when people fill out the form. Okay. So this is just an example of how we do character recognition and written character. Any questions? Adakah pertanyaan? So what we're trying to do here is actually we built this. Okay. We built this. Okay. So this is what we built, a system to recognize handwritten character recognition system. Okay. So this is how we built it. This is what an AI engineer does. So he will take this, will take the data set, and usually there are many data sets, and then he will create the architecture to do this, and then he will run it and get the result. Once it is satisfiable, say for example in this particular case we have like 99%. Let's try. Let's delete this and let's make the layer in the middle 2 layers instead of 5. Let's just run it again. Let's run it again. Okay. Let's train it. Okay. So we have only how many layers? 2, 1, 2, 3. Okay. Sorry. Let's see if it's better. So every time we change the architecture, we have to train it again. So that's why it it's taking quite a while to train. And to do this, we need a computer that does this, and sometimes a set of computers. And this one requires lots of electricity. That's why people said AI is not good. This AI is not green because AI runs this and require lots of electricity. Oh, this is actually not bad. If you look into this, even with two hidden layers, two layers in the middle, it's already pretty good, already 99%. So the same thing if we want to recognize between cats and dogs, we can see also we can use cats and dogs. We can download the data set here. Okay. The set, cats and dog. So instead of the minis data set, we can have the cats and dog data set. If we don't have it, that's why you have to create your own data set. So somebody asked me, Pak Budi, can you create a system to recognize something for kelapa sawit? Yes, but I don't have the data set. So that's why it is going to be difficult because we don't have the data set just like this one. I need to have like for each classes, I need to have 5,000 images and then they have to be labeled. So that's why to create the data set itself for say kelapa sawit, I calculated like last year, it's going to cost us around 200 million rupiah, 200 jutaan untuk membuat data set. So it's going to be expensive to create this data set. So that's why AI is still expensive. Once somebody created the data set, it's easy. Like this one, somebody already created the data set, so it's easy. Now, if we look at this, if we train it 10 times, the epoch here 10 times, the accuracy is already good enough, already 99%. Okay, so this is just an example of how easy it is to code an AI. This is easy though. If we go to a more complex one, then it's going to be more difficult. Adakah pertanyaan? So the model itself, right now, the model itself, it's available, but it runs on Google Colab. So it is there. The model is. But if I want to take this model, the model into import it to something else. So what I have to do is I have to download the weights of the weights of this my model. So I have to take the weights of this, and then the architecture. I have to download them, and sometimes even the weights are very very big, like maybe gigabytes. So that's why when you want to run say DeepSeek on your computer, you need like gigabytes, probably terabytes disk to download those weights. And you don't want to train them because it's going to take quite a while. So that's why the issue right now is how come DeepSeek can create a model similar to ChatGPT? It's impossible if they don't have access to NVIDIA GPU. So, but how do they get NVIDIA GPU? Because right now, the ban is still there, right? The US is not allowing China to buy NVIDIA chips. So that's the issue. Adakah pertanyaan? So the good thing is character recognition masih jalan. Otherwise I was worried. Kalau nggak jalan pusing ngedebugnya. Adakah pertanyaan? Belum saya ini lagi. Let me see if I have more examples in terms of see. Adakah pertanyaan lagi? Let's see if hmm. Uh, a while ago, I think 3 years ago, I tried to do the same thing, but I was not using a minutes. I was using images, for example, to distinguish between Indomie and I think at that one Indomie and another brand, right? So we collected images, Indomie and another brand, and then we detect whether this image is actually Indomie or Sarimi. So the process was similar to this, but we have to download lots, like more than 10,000 images of Indomie. So that's what we are trying to do. Now, right now I have a PhD student working on what we call a traffic sign recognition. Traffic sign recognition. Uh, but we want to have like, and we call it adversarial attack. Now, I'll show you what I have right now. We don't have the database of let me just TSR. Where is my TSR? Let me just show you what I've been doing these days. Okay. So now what I've been doing is here. I'm trying to get images of traffic sign. So this is what I've been doing these days. I'm taking pictures of this traffic sign. So every time, if everywhere I go and I see traffic signs, I take a picture. Now, what I have to do is I take this picture. Okay, say for example, this P, you're not allowed to park this, right? So I have to take this image and I have to crop it. Say I have to crop this P sign, and then I have to label it. This is a P slash sign. So maybe I call it P slash. Okay. So for this image, I have to have like a meta tag, and I call it P slash. And then again for this image, I have to square it. I have to crop this, and then I call it P slash also. Okay. And then for this do not enter sign, I have to crop it, and then I said do not enter sign. Do not enter one, and then do not enter two, do not enter three. For this kind of image, for each sign, I need to have 5,000 images. So you can imagine, right? This is going to take me a year to collect all these images. So this is what I'm trying to do right now these days. Now, these images is going to be used for traffic sign recognition for car, autonomous car. If you have a car and your car is autonomous, right? Your car is on the street and it is looking for traffic sign. Okay. Oh yeah, you have to go left. You cannot enter this. You have to, if you want to park this, and so on and so forth. And then, for example, this is the limit, right? If you see this, the speed limitation of the car is 20 kilometer per hour, and so on and so forth. Now, my PhD student is right now is actually what we call an adversarial attack. So what we do, we put stickers on top of this. So we put stickers on top of this, right? And then we put, say for example, this do not enter sign. If we have to do not enter sign, like this one, let me just show you. This do not enter sign. We put sticker here, and then the sticker says the maximum is 20 kilometer per hour. So which one will be recognized by the car? Is it do not enter, or the maximum speed is 20? If we can fool the car, then it's going to be an accident, because the car will enter this at the speed of maximum is 20 kilometer per hour. So this is what we call an adversarial attack. So this is a PhD program. It's going to take us maybe 3 years at least, 3 years to create a system to understand this and to kind of distinguish between this the traffic sign or this is attack. The same thing with face detection and recognition. If you can see, this is my face, right? But I can put a sticker here, and I put a sticker of a cat here. Put a sticker of a cat here. Will it recognize me as Budi or a cat? So that's what we call an adversarial attack. So I have to create all the data set people with face with sticker, and I have stickers on my glasses, for example. So this is what we are trying to do right now. So that's why data set is very very important. If you see, if you saw my collection, maybe I have 8. I only have 11 images right now. As of right now, I have 11 images, and I need to collect 21 classes multiplied by 5,000. I need to get about 100,000 images. 100,000 images. Right now, I have only 11. Why don't you use traffic sign from other places? Because they're different. If you look into traffic sign from other countries, they're different. And nobody is selling traffic sign data set. So that's the problem. You cannot see like somebody selling 100,000 of images of traffic sign. And it has to be labeled. So all those 100,000 images they have to be labeled. So I'm going to hire somebody probably from SMK to do all the labeling. So that's why I'm trying to get SMK AI to do all the labeling for this. This is just a simple case. I need 100,000 images, right? Previously in my uh, license plate recognition, I have probably close to 2 million images. So that's why AI is not easy. But you follow the flow, right? When I want to create an AI model, this is the flow. So as you can see, the flow is quote unquote simple, but time consuming. Yes, otherwise.
Yeah, sir, because you're saying about the AI generating image.
Mm,
I've, in social media, there's a lot of such a through deep learning models like DALL-E and Stable Diffusion,
mm,
and
mm,
the underlying code must be highly complex, I think, and extensive.
mm,
And
mm,
like if we even ChatGPT, I think like if we like typing create market with full of people and etc, and they
mm.
can and it can create a really really good and highly good
Realistic.
resolution of
Yeah.
picture. Like could you explain to us how these AI models manage and process such a vast amounts of code and data?
Okay.
Additionally, I think like how do they optimize compute like we can say computational or
Okay.
efficiency while they can maintain high quality image generation in a fast way.
Okay. Let me scale it down. If you use your mobile phone, right? You type in something, right? Do you use the autocomplete mode? The auto completion mode. Some people when they're typing right something and
Yeah,
then
yeah, yeah.
in the text there's a complete.
Yeah, yeah,
For example, let's say saya akan telat, saya
yeah.
akan and then it will say telat or whatever, right? It does all the completion, right?
Yeah.
So the Chat GPT or the LLM is doing similar to that. So if I type in something in my mobile phone, for example, saya akan now because I'm always telat, then it will say telat. In your mobile phone, it's going to be different. If I type in saya akan terkapar, for example, right? Maybe because you're more terkapar, I'm more telat. So my mobile phone is trained using data set that is kind of for me, right? So that's why you can think of it as an autocomplete. But no, the scale is bigger. Our mobile phone is very small, right? The memory is small, the processor is small, so it can only autocomplete one word. Okay. Now imagine if I have a bigger mobile phone. Maybe the mobile phone is as big as this. Maybe a tablet, right? A tablet. Because of the processor is bigger, the memory is bigger. Maybe it can allow me to say three words instead of one word. Saya akan and then it says pergi ke pasar belanja. So it will do three words, right? Because it is much better, the processor much better, the computation much better, the model much better, so it can offer you three words. Now the Chat GPT, because it's on the cloud, it has big machines. It was trained with many machines. It can offer you 1,000 words. So if I can say, write me something about my daily life, it can offer you, it can offer me, it can create 1,000 possibilities, right? Just like the smaller version is our mobile one. It's just like autocomplete. Say it is autocomplete, but in a bigger scale, a bigger scale. Now, how big is the computer? The computer is very, very big. The cost of a computer, it's about the cheapest one is about $100,000, the cheapest one. Sekitar mungkin kalau in Indonesia mungkin sekitar 1,5 miliar satu komputernya itu paling murah. The cheapest one is 1.5 billion rupiah. The cheapest one. The one that is being used by ChatGPT, it's about probably maybe 10,000 times. So it's probably around 10 triliun harganya komputer. 10 triliun the computer itself. The computation is very, very big.
So it seemed like like it seemed to resemble how the human brain instinctively makes split-second decision, right? So for instance,
Mm,
when face an
mm,
accident, of course,
mm,
like our brain
mm,
instantly process multiple possibilities, like we predict outcomes like, oh, after this I will falling, and then potential injuries, or even worse
mm.
scenario, die, and etc. Like,
Correct?
so it seemed like our brain, because I think,
Yes, but there is but.
okay, what
That's
is it?
probably you. But for me, it's going to be different because I was trained, my brain was trained differently, right? Just like if you train your brain with different data set, it's going to react differently. Maybe some people will say, you are maybe worried too much, but other people say, forget it. Santai aja Mas Bro. Yeah, it can be like that, right? Why? Because your brain was trained with different data set. All your life, your brain was trained with different data sets. So that's why we started with similar brain, but because of our experience is different, or so that's why our wiring is a bit different. But the most important part is when we train it, our brain was using a different kind of data set. That's why we think differently. That's why if I were give you, if I were given say, write 10 words, you and I will have different 10 words, right? The same thing with ChatGPT. That's why if we use ChatGPT over and over again, then it will quote unquote personalize it against my behavior. Oh, Pak Budi is using ChatGPT for coding, for example. So, oh yeah, maybe he's doing it Python. So the next time I ask something in ChatGPT will say, okay, previously you asked about Python. Maybe this is about Python too. So it will kind of have the answer slanted towards Python because I'm using it more and more and more and more Python oriented. Just like our cell phone, a smaller version is our cell phone. Your cell phone and my cell phone is going to behave differently if I type in the words in in WhatsApp, for example. Okay. Mari kita pergi ke ah, pergi ke mine probably ke kampus, and yours is probably ke kantor. Right? It's going to be different, but because I go to campus all the time and you go to kantor all the time, so it's going to be different. But this time is it's not just one word, and you can picture it. It's one book. It can predict one book. So that's why what amazes us, what make it amazing to me, it can do that in our lifetime. I can predict this. I was actually predicted this, but uh, to me, it's going to be to take like 10 years from now. But now it's already happening. This is kind of surprising to me. Even to me, it's surprising. Okay. Now that's why long time ago when LLM was starting, it was very very slow because the data set for the training was limited. Now, if you look into the history of this large language model or ChatGPT or whatnot, the original was only in English because many people are using it in English. There's no Bahasa Indonesia yet. So that's why they put a lots of Bahasa Indonesia data into it so it can understand Bahasa Indonesia. Now it understand Bahasa Indonesia. When long time ago, when I asked a professor in kind of a linguistic, and I asked him, oh, how big is the effort to create this data, right, data set? And he said, oh, it's going to take us 10 years of 10 man years. Okay, 10 man years if it's done by one person. If it's done by 1,000%, it's going to take 10 years divided by 1,000. If it's done by 1 million people, then it's going to take like a week for probably. So that's why everything is better nowadays, because people are using it, and the system is being trained and trained and trained again. So that's why it's getting better and getting better. Gitu advice. It's not perfect yet. Last time I checked about 6 months ago, I asked ChatGPT to multiply two big numbers, and it basically it gave me the wrong answer, because it was not trained to do math. It was not trained to do math. Now these days, if I ask ChatGPT to multiply two big numbers, it can do it properly. A long time ago, somebody said, "Okay, let me just put it. Okay, which one is bigger, 7.9 or 7.11? Which one is bigger? Which number, 7.9 or 7.11? Which one is bigger?
7.9.
7.9, right? 7,9 sama 7,1. Satu kan 7,1. It's 7.1, right? But GPT got it wrong, because it says 11 is bigger than 9. So yeah, Wardah, just like you said, yeah, 7.99, 7.99, it's actually smaller karena 7,1. 7,1 ya, right? 7,1. But it is more accurate, but it's still 7.1 instead of 7.9. So 7.9 is 799 is bigger 7.9. Begitu. And ChatGPT says 7.11 is bigger. Gitu ceritanya. But now it's getting better, it's getting better. Gitu, so otherwise, so you can think of it, the competition is big because ChatGPT, DeepSeek, they have big computers. We don't have, even in Indonesia, we don't have it. We don't have it because it's too expensive, still too expensive to own a big GPU. Right now, ITB, we have, let's see, one or two, or I can't remember, one or two machines, and each of the machines is about 1.5 billion rupiah. Jadi satu mesin itu 1,5 miliar kan. We only have two. I think two. And we have so many students. Even my students, we don't get a chance to use it because there's a queue. Ada antrian makanya. Jadi mahasiswa saya nggak bisa pakai. And right now, people are thinking, okay, which country has the biggest hardware for this? The first one is US, the other one is China. And Indonesia is not even on the list. So that's why the question is, should we buy GPU? Well, we should, but if you think about it, if you think about it, let's spend 10 trillion, 10 triliun rupiah, lebih baik dialokasikan untuk beli GPU atau dialokasikan untuk bayar gaji guru. Which one? So yeah, in Indonesia we still poor. I don't know if Danantara has the money to buy a GPU. So that's why we ask Pak Luhut buy GPU. Beli yang banyak ya.